श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की all glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमामो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अबद्धेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Welcome all of you for this Bhagavatam class this morning. We are reciting from the 5th canto, 8th chapter, text number 26. It's in prose order, so I will recite and then we will all repeat the translation after this. एवमगटमानमनोरथाकुलहृदयो मृगधारकाभासेन स्वारब्धकर्मणा योगारम्भणतो विभ्रंशित स योगतापसो भगवदाराधनलक्षणाच्च कथमितरता जायन्तर येण कुणक आसंग साक्षान्निःश्रेयस प्रतिपक्षतया प्राक् परित्यक्त दुस्त्यज हृदया विजातस्य तस्यैव मन्तराय विहत योगारम्भणस्य राजर्षेर्भरतस्य तावन् मृगार्भग पोषण पालन प्रीणन लालन अनुषंगेण विगणयत आत्मानमहि इवाकुबिलं दुरतिक्रमः कालः करालरमस भस आपद्यत एवं. In that way, agatamana, impossible to be achieved, manahratha, by desires which are like mental chariots, akula, aggrieved, hridayaha, whose heart, mrigadaraka abhasena, resembling the son of a deer, swa-arabdha karmana, by the bad results of his unseen fruitive actions. Yoga arambanataha, from the activities of yoga performances. Vibhramshitaha, fallen down. Saha, he, Maharaj Bharata. yoga tapasaha, executing the activities of mystic yoga and austerities. Bhagavad Aradhana Lakshanat, from the activities of devotional service rendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Cha, and katam, how, itaratha, else, jati antare, belonging to a different species of life, yena punake, to the body of a deer calf, asangaha, so much affectionate attachment, sakshat, directly, nishreyasa, to achieve the ultimate goal of life, pratipakshataya, with quality of being an obstacle, prak, who previously, parityakta, given up, dustyaja, although very difficult to give up, hridaya abhijatasya, his sons, born of his own heart, tasya, of him, evam, thus, antaraya, by that obstacle, vihata, obstructed, yoga arambanasya, whose path of executing the mystic yoga practices, Radharishehe, of the great saintly king, Bharatasya, of Maharaj Bharata, Tavat, in that way, Mriga Arbhaka, the son of a deer, Poshana, in maintaining, Palana, in protecting, Prenana, in making happy, Lalana, in fondling, Anusangena, by constant absorption, Aviganayataha, neglecting, Atmanam, his own soul, Ahihi iva, like a serpent, Akubilam, the whole of a mouse, Duratikramaha, unsurpassable, Kalaha, ultimate death, Karala, terrible, Rabhasaha, having speed, Apadyata, arrived. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, in this way, Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks in the path of spiritual life? How could he show such uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse, situated itself before him. Purport. As will be seen in later verses, Bharat Maharaj at the time of death would be forced to accept the body of a deer due to his attraction for the deer. In this regard, a question may be raised. How can a devotee be affected by his past misconduct and vicious activities? In Brahma Samhita it is said, Karmani nirdahati kintaja bhakti bhajam. For those engaged in devotional service, bhakti bhajana, the results of past deeds are indemnified. According to this, Bharat Maharaj could not be punished for his past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Maharaj Bharata purposefully became over-addicted to the deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. To immediately rectify this mistake, for a short time he was awarded the body of a deer. This was just to increase his desire for mature devotional service. Although Bharat Maharaj was awarded the body of an animal, he did not forget what had previously happened to his purposeful mistake. He was very anxious to get out of his dear body, and this indicates that his affection for the devotional service was intensified so much so that he was quickly to attain the perfection in a Brahmana body in the next life. It is with this conviction that we declare in our Bhakti Guided magazine that devotees like Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposely commit some sinful activity are born in the bodies of dogs, monkeys, and tortoises in that holy land. Thus, they take on these lower life forms for a short while, and after they give up those animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Such punishment is only for a short period, and it is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. I'm very happy to be here in Sri Shri Radha Nilamadhava temple. I seek the blessings of all of you devotees to speak on this very challenging purport, because in the translation, Shukadeva Goswami says that how can Bharat Maharaj fall down from his spiritual life, after coming to the forest, having given up his son, his wife, and kingdom, and elephants and horses and everything, all the wealth. Now he has relinquished all the opulences of his kingdom and living in the jungle. When he was a king, many would salute him, many would bow down to him, they would play a big band and welcome him. In India, it's common when the kings would come. Bharat Maharaj is coming, and then everybody will play band. Dhan, dhan, dhan. They'll play like that. And all the people will shower flowers, and the king would either come on the back of an elephant, or he may come in a chariot. And it is like a regular practice. Just like even today, the president of a country, when he comes to some place, there are many protocols. How the army, navy, air force, how they welcome the great leaders. So much honor, prestige he received. And there is one verse which says that, Yo dustyajan sutan sugrudrajyam hridisprishah Jahau yuvaiva malavat uttamashlokalasah. It is said that yo dustyajan means very difficult to give up attachments in this world. What are they? He's saying dara means wife, sutan means children, suhrit means the well-wishers and friends, family members, rajyam means kingdom. They are all heart-touching attachments. Hridisprishah means they touch our heart. They are very close to our heart, dear to our hearts. But he says such things, he gave it up. You know how he gave up? He's saying Malaiva yu. He's saying Jahau, Yuvaiva. Jahau means to give up. Yuvaiva Malavat. Although he was young, Yuvaiva means he was a young man. He was not very old. Generally people go to forest after Vanaprastha by 60 or something like that. But he was young, at the prime of his youth. But he decided that I will give up all these things and went to forest for attaining Krishna's lotus feet. So how did he give up? Malavat, it says. After passing stool, how one would not even look at it. One would flush it away and then come out of the washroom. Like that he gave up. That's the example given. Jahau yuvaiva malavat uttamashloka lalasaha. And how could one give up these things so easily? Because it says Uttama Shloka Lalasaha. He had greed for Lord Krishna. So, in this world there is a material greed, there is a spiritual greed. Material greed is for wealth, like gold, silver, or land, or for the members of the opposite sex, or for post or position. So, these are material things which we are attracted to. Often we say the 5 P's that pinch you. You know what are those 5 P's? Penny means money. They are attracted to people, attracted to pleasures, attracted to position and possessions. So these are all material acquisitions. What the most people in the world are after. In Bible, Jesus, one place he says, do not strive for the wealth which can be eaten by moths or rusted by wind. Like that he says, because basically he says that the material goods in this world which are glittering, he says all that glitters is not gold, which means these attractions are called as here today, gone tomorrow pleasures. They won't stick on with us and they won't come with us at the time of death, and they will only be in touch with us for a short while. So, in almost all religions, you will find they actually teach us about two types of achievements. One is material achievement, one is spiritual achievement. So, those who are living in the world may balance both, but as they grow older and in maturity, gradually they should come to understand this fact that we have to elevate our consciousness. Just like aeroplane goes in a runway, you may go in the runway for a while, then you have to take off. And taking off doesn't mean giving up, and nobody needs to be afraid for giving up. Why? Because you naturally give up something lower for something higher. Just like you can see that all of us are playing with toys when we were small children. Then when we grew up, we gave up the toys and started going to school. Then after going to school, then you go to college, then you go to company. You get better vehicles. You don't mind giving up a tricycle because you get a bicycle. You don't mind giving up a bicycle, you get a bike or a car. Similarly, spiritual advancement gives you such a higher taste that you can give up the lower things, attachment to lower things. Just like a boy playing in a seashore, while making sandcastle, for him sandcastle is everything. It just consumes his mind. But then when the mom calls him and says, "My dear son, it's getting dark now, we are going home, come back." So he just dusts his hand in the seashore and leaves the sandcastle behind, even to be washed away by the waves of the ocean. And then he goes with parents. Why? Because he knows his relationship is not with the seashore. His relationship is with the parents. Similarly, our relationship is with the divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna, not with the seashore of the material world. So you can make a sandcastle, you can make holes, you can play so many things in the seashore, but you are not going to permanently live there. So knowing this fact, great souls would go for a higher, even Prithu and Archi, husband and wife, they both take Vanaprastha, they go to the forest. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they were guided by Vidura, they also go to the forest, you find that. Many examples, Vaidarbi and Malayadvaja, they also go to the forest after Vanaprastha. Husband and wife, after they cross 50 or 60, we call it as a Ugra Ratha Shanti, which means the age between 25 to 60 is called as Ugra Ratha. Why? Boarding on a chariot, it's like a war in this world. Accumulating money, building a house, putting up the things and raising the children and solving problems, solving quarrels. It's like a Ugra Ratha, it is said. And when you take Vanaprastha, it's called Ugra Ratha Shanti, means it comes to a calm state because material duties are over. You have raised the children, got them married, settled them, everything. They will take care of the household chores and everything. Then parents become more serious in spiritual life, in the Vanaprastha, third stage of life. At that time, it is not that we go to sleep or relaxation. Kranti, it is said, a spiritual revolution starts from there. From 60 onwards, husband and wife. In India, even today there is a system. There is a second marriage for the husband and wife. What is the second marriage? Husband and wife again recommit themselves to each other. And because from that time, what is that marriage about? 25 to 50 or 60 years, taking responsibility in material life. Beyond 60, giving up material responsibility and taking spiritual responsibility. It's new life. It starts. Actually, I came to know more about it because my elder sister recently, they were entering into 60 years. So at that time, I studied more about this. So one is supposed to take spiritual responsibility. But Bharat was so advanced in spiritual life that even at a young age, he took it up. You can see many of the students here of Krishna House and other devotees, you can see that at a very young age, they have become awakened spiritually. So it's a very great blessing. Instead of having to wait till 60. Because the bamboo, when it is green, it is easy to bend. When the bamboo is dry, when you bend, it breaks. So at an early age, if somebody starts, then they cultivate their mind nicely and spiritually. They have clean habits. They grow very powerfully as they grow up. So that's what Bharat Maharaj was also thinking. So he went to forest for that purpose. But as you all have heard the past background of this chapter, in the forest he used to sit in meditation and meditate on the beautiful form of Lord Vishnu. In the morning, afternoon, and evening, when the sun is about to set. Because the source of the sun or the energy of the sun comes from Supreme Lord Vishnu. So when he would see the sun, he would meditate on Lord Vishnu and the Supreme Lord. So he was becoming purer and purer. He was becoming, he was taking a dip in the transparent, pure, holy waters of the rivers. And because he was secluded, there was no useless talk with anybody. Actually, we can talk only about Krishna. Otherwise, we should not waste our energy talking mundane things. So he wouldn't waste his time. All day was available for him for spiritual contemplation and absorption. Eating simple foods like roots, bulbs, berries, such kinds of things he was eating. So naturally, this type of sattvic ahar, it actually cleanses the mind and heart also. So remembering Krishna, tears were welling up in his eyes, which means he was really advancing in spiritual life. He was going beyond the Rajoguna, Tamaguna, or mode of passion and mode of ignorance. Mode of ignorance leads to lethargy. Mode of passion leads to unrestrained action. So he went beyond this to lethargy and unrestrained action. And he became calm, clear, and creative in thinking, peaceful, equipoised, austere, and clean habits, and performing all religious rituals. Everything was fine, so far so good. Then one day when he went to take a bath in the river, while taking bath he noticed a deer heard the sound of a roaring lion, and it jumped over the river out of great fear, and the small baby fell from his womb and it's called fawn, we call it, doe or a fawn. It was drowning in the water. And that poor deer died, mother deer died due to fear. Now, looking at this tender deer drowning in the water, what do you think Bharat Maharaj should do? Should he protect it or not? Even any of you see somebody suffering in this world, you would naturally extend yourself, especially if you are religious, if you are pious, if you are godly, saintly, because compassion is natural quality of anybody. At the same time, he happened to be king also. So king means Kshatriya. He always had a habit of protecting the citizens. So now also the same tendency to protect came in his mind. He felt pity for the deer. He picked it up and took it to his ashram. And there he cared for it. Like here it is. Just now we read, he says here, Poshana. He maintained it. Palana. Protecting it. Prenana. In trying to make it happy by feeding grass and everything. Lalana. And he was fondling it, playing with it. Anusangena. By constant absorption. Here is where the problem started. You see, it was definitely not wrong in protecting a suffering creature, bringing it to the ashram, feeding it grass was all right. But when the deer grows up a little bit, you should you should put it along with the other deers to go in the forest, because birds are the same feather flock together, and they can go with other deers. But in the meantime, in the name of caring, he became attached to the deer. How do you know that? See here he says, Aviganayataha Atmanam, neglecting his own soul, like that he says. That's the point. Sometimes things begin in an innocent way, eventually we end up in a mess. Many times. Like you are working in the computer. So you may be reading some book, soft copy of a book. Suddenly a pop-up comes. You think I will just see what it is. You just click it and go and see the email or whatever it is. And then you read it and then you get into it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. Then you make a phone call to somebody, why you wrote like this, what are you saying? And then your 1 hour is gone like that. So we went for a good purpose with a good intention, but we got distracted. Like one of our boys from Pune wanted to go to Bombay for attending a Bhagavatam class. So he went in a train. So he went in a particular station, he got down, to purchase some eatables. So he went to the shop and they showed varieties, you know, varieties of those items, and he was choosing which one, made of cashew nuts or made of ground nuts. He was watching it. And then he chose one. By the time he paid and looked behind, the train was gone. Train was not there. Many times in our spiritual life, certain things pop up. Some material responsibility, sometimes mother is sick, or father has this problem, or grandfather this, or brother, sister, something comes up. We get distracted. Sometimes there's a financial crunch, sometimes some accident, or somebody got some deadly disease, and they have to be rushed to the hospital, and things like that. And then we just slightly pay our attention to that, and we get carried away by that. Problem was getting carried away. He got carried away. And most importantly, it is said here that he forgot his duties. So, in the sacrificial fire, when he would offer the ghee, that sacrificial fire is that Yajna Kund is called as mouth of Vishnu, and the fire is called tongue of Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. When you offer the ghee in that, it goes straight to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the fire is created by Him originally. So when you offer it, it goes to Him. So he is supposed to offer it for the Lord's pleasure. But while offering that ahuti, he was turning in another direction, looking towards the deer. Because he used to play with the deer. The movements of the deer were very pleasing to his mind. Which means attraction, attention, attachment, absorption, affection. There are 5 A's. This applies spiritually and materially also. First one is, if you get little attraction for anything, that's where your attention goes. Attention, energy flows where attention goes, it is said. You are going to put all your energy where attention goes. For example, if you got attracted to spiritual life a little bit, then you start putting energy also in that direction. You may come for a sabbatical, you take some training, correct? Because your attraction has come in spiritual life. If attraction goes in material life, somebody wants to go for trekking, somebody wants to go for surfing, somebody wants to play baseball, or somebody wants to, go for doing something, you will find that initially the attraction comes, little attraction to doing something. That is like a honey. There is some honey kept in some activities which you are attracted to. And then you flow in that, move in that direction. Then attention, you put attention in that. And when you repeatedly put attention on something, that leads to attachment. How attachment develops? Like for example, parents raise their small babies. You can see the mother. She wakes up the child, bathes the child, dresses the child, decorates the child, sends the child to school. Then she goes to school, receives the child again, brings the child back. Day in and day out, she is dealing with the child. And that interaction with the child makes her develop attachment to the child. And that attachment makes the child enter into her mind. So that even when the child is not there, she can remember the child. You ask any mother or father, can you picturize your child in your mind? They will say yes. They can see the face of the child in their mind. So a very simple dictum, if you are attached to someone, that someone can appear in your mind. That's all. As simple as that. If you are not attached to that someone, you will not be able to see their form. Like for example, say your mother is calling you on phone. As soon as you lift the phone, her voice is called as voice print. Immediately you can see her form. When you hear the sound from her. Similarly, when you say Hare Krishna, immediately the divine couple should come in the mind. But when will the divine couple come? When we are attached to the lotus feet. Right now we are not attached to the lotus feet. Therefore we are unable to see their form. Name, form, qualities, pastimes, activities, they all manifest one after another like the waves in the ocean, the mind of a pure devotee. But what happened to Bharat? He was attracted to the small doe. Then he started serving the doe repeatedly, continuously contacting it, fondling it, playing with it. When he would go to forest, he would carry it on the shoulder. When he would sleep at night, he would keep it on his chest. When he would be sitting to do yajna, he will keep it on his lap. So in this way, he was playing with it. And then he got distracted from the spiritual life. So attraction led to attention, and attention led to attachment. And that attachment gradually became absorption, like a sponge dipped in water is completely like filled with water. You squeeze it, water will come out. Like that, he became absorbed in the mind. You've seen a blotting paper? If you keep an ink pen in a blotting paper, it just expands. You've seen that? Like that, in his mind, the thoughts of deer expanded in his mind. You see, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Hamsavatara says to Chatush Kumaras and Brahma, he says, 4 Kumaras, he says that the mind enters into the sense objects in this world, and sense objects enter into mind. They actually mutually enter like this. For example, if I am attracted to something, that enters my mind. Like one time when I was going in the market with my father, small boy, when I was a small boy. So I just turned around in the shop and saw an aeroplane toy. And colorful, green color, red color, blue color, different colors, lights were there. It was making sound also. It was moving very nicely. I told my father, "Oh father, look at the plane, let's go and see." So he took me inside. So he showed us how it moves and everything, slowly gliding very beautifully. So I said, I have to get it now. So I asked the cost. It was some 3,000 rupees in Indian money, INR. Father said, "Hey, it's too costly." He said, "Oh, this is no good." He said, "I will get you some other small toy." I said, "No more that toy. This is the only toy I am attached to." I became attached to it. Then father said, "Not possible now." Then I said, "Okay, I am sitting in the shop, you go ahead." The father said, "How long are you going to sit?" "No, I am going to be here with the toy only." Then he told me, "Okay, I will give you this toy if you get first rank in your class," he said. I said, "Okay." Then we went home. I started studying very seriously. I was generally in 3rd or 4th rank. After 6 months, I came to first rank. I ran to my father and said, "See, I got a first rank." I showed him. He said, "Good boy, very intelligent. So you have made it now. Now keep it up," he said. And then he got busy in his work. I said, "What, keep it up? Where is aeroplane now?" I reminded him. He had forgotten it. But who didn't forget? I didn't forget. If you are attached to something, you cannot forget. It just keeps coming in the mind. Even while studying for the exam, aeroplane, 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 first rank, aeroplane. It keeps coming like that. So now, then he, of course, took me to the shop and he purchased that aeroplane and gave me. And of course, we play with it for some time. After some time, you'll get bored with that. That is the nature of material objects in this world. Therefore, you naturally search for better and better and better and bigger material objects which will give you happiness. At last, you come to Krishna's lotus feet. But here is a strange thing. He has come to Krishna's lotus feet. Then how did he get distracted? Actually, generally, you should go. You see in this world, from material objects, you go to spiritual object. And once you come to spiritual object, you stick on to it. You never give it up and go back to Godhead. How can somebody having become attracted to Krishna again take a U-turn and come back to material objects? In the 7th canto, there is an example given. Vantashi word is used, which is like, after vomiting, will anyone drink his own vomit? One wouldn't do that. After considering material things to be abominable, having given up, how will one be attracted again? And here is the reason given by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit, that it is definitely due to his past karma that impelled him to act like this. Like that he mentions that. So, even some of us who have come to spiritual life, we all have our experience. Our mind is filled with past impressions, good and bad impressions. Like good impressions impel you to do good acts. Bad impressions impel you to do bad acts. You can compare them to neem seeds and mango seeds. So if you sow neem seed, you get a neem tree with a lot of neem fruits. You sow the mango seed, you get mango trees with mangoes. Naturally, you would like to eat which one? You want to eat mango fruit or neem fruit. But at the same time, there are some things in our account which are like neem fruits. So therefore, what to do with the past karmic account? That impelled him to act like this. In our life, how do we know there are some past bad impressions? Those impressions are in the form of seeds in our mind, and they push us. There is Tamoguna means veiling force. Rajoguna means projecting force. And Sattoguna means revealing force. These are the 3 words used there. Veiling, veil means cover. And project, you understand project. And reveal means open up. Right? Like a sun is revealed from the clouds. Cloud is gone and the sun is seen. Like that. So, so in this way, the sun reveals the Sattva reveals. Sattva means like switching on a light in a dark room. Everything is revealed to you. Tamaguna means it's like switching off lights in a room, so everything is dark. That's Tamaguna. But Rajoguna means projecting. So we also see a projecting force in our mind, pushing us to do wrong things, instinctive pleasures, like animalistic pleasures. But then we know that I am a human being, I should not act like an animal, we should act like an angel. So when you upward vector means chanting Hare Krishna, attending morning program, reading the scriptures, associating with saintly persons, eating prasada, keeping, worshipping the deity, addressing the deity. So these are all upward vector. And letting the mind flow outwardly in this world is downward vector. Like becoming attracted to the 5 P's I told you. That's downward vector. So if we invest more and more in upward vector, then we keep going up, and if our intensity becomes very high in spiritual life, we go back to Godhead. But here it is mentioned that the downward vector of some past karma affected him. But then Prabhupada denies it in the purport. It is not due to past karma, he says. He says it is only due to what? His purposeful neglect, he says. So some of us may wonder that is it not a contradiction? Shukadeva Goswami says it is due to past karma. And Prabhupada says it is due to purposeful neglect and not past karma. There is no contradiction in the commentary of the Acharyas. And I will tell you how. This is the cream point in this purport. According to Shastra, materially you cannot change people from material point of view. But spiritually you can change a person's svabhava or nature. For example, Chanakya says, if you put a rope into a pipe, dog's tail into a pipe, and you take it out, again it will go like this. If you see dog's tail, even after a dozen years also. Therefore, Chanakya says people's psychological nature cannot be changed. Chanakya says that. On the other hand, Sanatana Goswami says, no, people's mentality can be changed. Like he gives the example of Yata kanchanatam jati kansyam rasa vidanatah tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. He says, if you put a soft iron piece in alchemy solution, it can turn into gold. Similarly, materially, if you try to force a person to change, he can't change. But by the touch of holy name, a person can change, he says, spiritually. For example, Mrigari chanted the holy name. A cruel Mrigari became soft-hearted Vaishnava Mrigari. The arrogant person like Rahugana, he became a humble devotee after meeting Jadabharata. You can see that. A weeping Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita became confident Arjuna at the end of hearing Gita. You can see that. In this way, a greedy person becomes a satisfied person. A lusty person can become a loving person. The heart transformation is possible only spiritually. Materially, it's not possible. So Prabhupada is saying, for Bharata, he went to forest for spiritual advancement. So although there was a past account in Bharata's account, karma was there, it is his duty to intensify the fire of devotional service in such a way that he should burn down that past karma, which he failed to do. Therefore he fell down. That is Prabhupada's point. That means by your endeavor you can burn down the past karma, which he didn't do. Why? Because he misused his choice. And Shukadeva Goswami is saying that the past karma came, which is not untrue, which is not false. That is also true. That means both are true. Past karma also came, and he was doing spiritual life, but this became dull. Spiritual part became dull. So this took over. If this became intent, this must have defeated this. You are able to see the difference? One is past karma, one is present endeavor. Therefore, you will see that in our lives also, we have to make Sridhara Swami's commentary, he says, Yatna Shaitilyam, he says. Yatna Shaitilyam means slackness in endeavor is the cause of fall down, he says. Slackness in endeavor. Like If one is deliberately going to put oneself in a tempting environment, if one is deliberately slackening the morning spiritual practices like chanting and other things, if one deliberately doesn't read Prabhupada's books regularly, one is deliberately living away from devotees, or one is finding fault with devotees or offending devotees. These are all like ways of slackening spiritual life. Hmm? Or becoming materially attached like Bharata did. That's the cause of his fall, Prabhupada says. Let's take some questions or reflections. Any of you? We have another mic. Yeah. Yes. Here you can give. Prabhu here. Yeah, you have one? Yeah. Okay. You would like to say something? Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Was my point very clear?
It was very clear, yeah. I don't even know what it is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I had this impression that I thought like if somebody had prashadam, that they couldn't take like an animal birth, that you would have another human birth. So like, is this like, did he not have prashadam, or was this like a different case?
Yeah. Actually, although he got the body of an animal, like a deer, in that body, you will see four specialities in that body. The first thing, he was born in a place called Kalanjara Mountains, but he left his birthplace to go to Pulahashrama, which is a Tapovanam, which is like a place of sages, which goes to show that why he gave up his native place. He thought, if I am in native place, parents will pamper me, the friends will waste my time. So he left that place and went to saintly association. Secondly, it is said that he was always weeping in the body of a deer, thinking of the mistake that he committed, because he was given remembrance by the Lord. So he would think, what a fool I was. I left everything and came to forest. I became attached to a deer. I even gave up my prince, but I became attached to a deer. So he lamented as a deer. Thirdly, it is said that he was seeing the forest full of lushy green grass, long, tall grasses, but he wouldn't eat them. He thought, if I eat them, I'll become very plumpy, then I will have desire for sense gratification, and I may forget Krishna. So he ate only dry grass, had kept himself very slim, so that he can practice spiritual life seriously. And fourthly, it is said, whenever there were sermons, lectures by the saintly people, he would go and sit behind the bush and take advantage of those lectures. Whatever they were speaking could be clearly understood by him because of his past advancement. So these four things were seen in the deer's body. Have you ever seen any deer behaving like this? Ordinary deer. You can't see that. But here you find this deer. No, this deer is like that. I have a video. You don't have this thing? Yeah. Maybe in the evening I'll show you if you want. I have a video of a real story of a deer in from Pune. They go on a spiritual procession to one holy place called Pandharpur. So this deer walked 20 miles. That was not deer recently. So one student sent me modern day Bharat Maharaj, like that he put and sent me. This deer was walking with the saintly people. There, when they were all making a circle and singing and dancing the holy names of the Lord, the deer sat through for the whole day. That's the deer. That means this deer must have done something in the past. So therefore, although now why did he get the body of a deer? The example is given that, say for example, a human being in the past life did some devotion service, but he did some big blunder. He may be born in the body of a dog eater in the next life, or he may be born in a country where he may be eating cow flesh unknowingly. But his past devotional symptoms will be manifest in his body very soon. And then he wakes up. He comes to then, Krishna's devotees. And then he laments for having eaten the, dog or cow and all that. And quickly he cleanses himself. So the fall from the previous life to this life is because of the sins. And remembrance of the devotional symptoms is because of the past devotion. So in the purport says that materially speaking, for Bharat it was a downward spiral. He went from this position to this position. Spiritually speaking, he went from here to there. So it's a spiritual advancement, and that is Lord's mercy for his devotees. On the other hand, ordinary animals cannot have this advantage. I have another video where there is a dog, who was a maths teacher in the previous life. Now he has become a dog man. So he exactly counts. One man is telling him 1 plus 2. He says, 3 times he will bark. I have it. I don't know when to show it. We have any other class? Evening we have. In the evening I can show it. Only if you are there, I will show. Otherwise I'll give the video to Prabhu. I can give. Prabhu, I can give you. Those 2 videos I'll give you. You can share with the students. Yeah. I'll give it to Prabhuji. All of you know him. So you can take it and see those 2 videos. Yeah? And you'll be amazed. This dog is able to calculate even 10 minus 3. He says 7 times he barks. Exactly. Yeah? That means, he is carrying those mathematical impressions from previous life into this life in his mind. But he doesn't have any spiritual advantage by barking like that. Whereas this deer has spiritual advantage. So is it not wonderful? Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kita janma ho yata tu vadas bahirmukha brahma janme nahi mora ash. You know what he says? My dear Lord, I don't want to become a 4-headed Brahma, leader of the whole universe, if that Brahma would be a non-devotee. On the other hand, I don't mind becoming a worm in the house of a devotee, because in the house of a devotee, some Mahaprasad will be lying. I can eat that prasad and continue remembering you, like that he says. So devotees of the Lord don't fear becoming even a deer or a worm, provided they get birth in the house of a devotee. Because our goal is spiritual consciousness evolution. That's what we want. We don't bother about the situation in which we may be put. Like for example, there are people who did some virtuous activities. They got a handsome body, like Nalakur Manigrave. They got a handsome body. They were sons of treasurer Kubera. But then they went to Mandakini Ganga and indulged in abominable activity. They were actually playing in the waters with 2 nude devis in the waters. And Narada saw them and they got a curse to become a tree. So what is the use of a handsome body? One misuses the body. On the other hand, is it not an advantage to have a dear body who is constantly remembering Krishna? So the criteria should always be whether I am able to remember Krishna. Like any of us sitting here, we may be put in some troublesome situation in life sometimes. But if that trouble makes us remember Krishna, it's wonderful. Correct, no? I heard one devotee, after 2-3 years of practice in ISKCON temple, he became frustrated with some other devotees. He decided to leave the temple. And he wanted to go for full-blown sense gratification, the outside world. So first thing he said, I have been surfing before, now I will go to surf in Atlantic. So he went to the ocean to surf. When he went farther in the ocean, suddenly he encountered a shark. The shark opened the mouth like this. He thought it's going to devour me. And he would go this way and the shark also would come like this. He would go that way, it will come like that, whichever direction. So he thought, I am gone now. Then he closed his eyes and shouted Narasimhadev's prayer. And then he found the shark had disappeared. Then he quickly swam and came back to shore. And he was breathing heavily out of great fear. So then he thought, now half of the mind had become changed now. That Narasimha protected me. Still some propensity was there to enjoy sense gratification. Then he went to the airport to catch the flight to return home. The airport, some lady devotees were distributing books, because this fellow had rubbed off his tilak and changed his attire. They couldn't recognize. So they came and showed him, would you like to take books? Like take books. And they were giving. He was irritated. Oh, they are not leaving me, these people everywhere. Then he went to the plane. When he sat in the plane, he was drowsy. And suddenly he heard the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Turned and saw there was sannyasi sitting next to him. He was chanting Hare Krishna. So I understood, the Lord is calling me now. Then he took the next plane and came back to temple again. So Lord sometimes, is so kind that even if we leave him and go, he doesn't leave us. He makes some arrangement for us to come back. Now in the body of the deer, he became very serious devotee. And subsequently, next life, he did very good preaching and then went back to Godhead. All right? Thank you. You have one more question you can take. Yes, Amit Prabhu.
Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of morning program and reading Srila Prabhupada's books?
Yeah. Actually, morning program is a power-packed succession of spiritual activities. And why I said it is very important, in the Vedic times, people would go to, forests and Himalayas, and they would do many, many serious practices, spiritual practices, meditation and all that. Now, none of us can even imagine that, going to a jungle. Huh? And they would even hear sounds of lions and tigers and elephants, but they won't be afraid. Imagine if we hear sound of a lion, what will happen? Huh? Isn't it? So in Kali Yuga, we are not qualified to do such activities. So instead, Srila Prabhupada, the Acharya of this age, he has come and he is telling actually that, from the Shastras, Rupa Sanatana have extracted and given everything, and based on that he has prepared, he has made this plan for the morning program. Because the Kali Yuga means the main dharma is hearing and chanting. So Narada tells Vedavyas, two things are considered a boat to cross over this ocean of Kali Yuga. One is the chanting of the holy name and hearing the holy fame. So name is Hare Krishna mantra. Fame is Srimad Bhagavatam. So anybody who does these two activities with utmost sincerity, they will go back to Godhead. And while doing this, we also first thank the spiritual master with 8 paragraphs, because through him only we have come to know all these things. So gratitude is necessary in any field of education. You want to learn karate, you want to learn kung fu, you want to learn Bharatanatyam, you want to learn anything, unless one has a great reverence for the Guru or the spiritual master, nobody can make any progress. In fact, we make more progress by blessings of superiors rather than our own endeavor. So we should also endeavor, but we should depend on their blessings also. So first we sing Samsara Davanada. Then we pray to Lord Narasimha for protection and purification. Lord Narasimha purified Hiranyakashipu and protected Prahlad. So we pray to him. Then Tulasi, we offer prayers, because Tulasi is one of the very intimate associates of Srimati Radharani Vrinda Devi. She is the manager of the spiritual world who awards services. So we pray to her and say, I have come to this temple, please accept me as your servant and hand me over to Srimati Radharani and engage me in service of the divine couple. So we are begging for service opportunity from her. So after doing all these things, we sit and chant a couple of hours, chanting of the holy name. And then after that, Guru Puja for Srila Prabhupada, the Acharya of the ISKCON movement. And then we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in Bhagavatam itself it is said, Yasyam Vaishruyamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktirutpadyate Pumsam Shoka Moha Bhaya Apaha, it says. Meaning, if you hear Bhagavatam, the primary benefit is it kindles your feelings for Krishna. It awakens feelings for Krishna. As you keep reading Bhagavatam, eventually you will see two things will happen. A love for Krishna will awaken, and Shoka Moha Bhaya means lamentation, illusion, and fear of future. They will all be driven out. You will not fear what will happen to me in future. World is becoming dangerous. This is going, war is happening. All fears will be gone, because you will clearly see that I am a spirit soul servant of Krishna, and love for Krishna will awaken. So the morning program, exactly what it does to you. Our mind at the moment is like milk which can be diluted by water. The more water you add, more diluted it becomes. And outside world, influence is becoming more and more worse. So it can dilute our, mind very easily. Even if you are a man with a little spiritual inclination, it gets diverted and diluted when you go out in the world. So in order to strengthen the inner core of our personality, then you perform the morning programs, the successive programs you do it. Then the milk turns into butter. When milk becomes like butter, butter cannot be diluted. You put butter in water, it will remain aloof. So those devotees who have done very strict sadhana, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu wrote one article based on Prabhupada's quotes. So in that article he talks about strict devotee, serious devotee, sincere devotee. He says strict devotee means who sticks to the vows, never compromises. And serious devotee means who never, falls prey to temptations or allurements in different situations. He is a serious devotee. Serious devotee doesn't make compromises when he is put in a tempting environment. For example, Ajamila was put in a tempting environment, he buckled. Haridas Thakur was put in a tempting environment, he did not buckle. And Prahlad Maharaj was put in a calamitous situation, he didn't bend. There are other people, if you put in a calamitous situation, they will collapse. So that means Prahlad is serious devotee. Strict devotee means like Raghunath Das Goswami, strict in his vows of going around the Govardhan hill, even when he was very old, he would go around. Haridas Thakur was chanting 3 lakh names every day, even in old age. So these are all strict devotees, serious devotees. And sincere devotee means a sincere devotee has no material motives. A sincere devotee does not harbor any malice in the heart towards anybody. A sincere devotee has no revengeful thoughts towards anybody. One keeps the heart very clean. And in this way, when we practice the morning programs seriously, strictly, sincerely, then your intensity, the upward intensity is like a rocket which is going at 11 kilometers per second. You are a professor in Colorado. He is a professor in Colorado University, so you will understand the example. 11 kilometers per second is the speed of the rocket by which it goes beyond the gravitational pull. Similarly, gravitational pull is Maya's pull. And our intensity in Krishna becomes so intense that you will never take a U-turn. You'll go back to God. Alright? Shri Prabhupada ki. Thank you very much.